That's not just analysis, that's the reality of what happened to Chennedy Carter's WNBA career. One moment, one decision, one hip check that sent Caitlin Clark crashing to the floor. And suddenly, Carter went from professional athlete to persona non grata across the entire league. But here's what nobody's talking about. Carter just broke her silence in a new interview, and what she said about that incident proves exactly why she'll never play another WNBA game again. We're going deep into the moment that ended a career, the pattern of behavior that made it inevitable, and the recent comments that confirmed Carter learned absolutely nothing from being blacklisted. Many of you have been saying for months that this was about more than one dirty play. And you were right. Let's filter out the noise and look at what really happened here. If you believe the story behind the story matters, smash that like button. It tells us we're on the right track as we investigate what the league doesn't want you connecting. June 1st, 2024, Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. The atmosphere was electric as fans packed in to watch their Indiana Fever take on the Chicago Sky. Caitlin Clark, the phenomenon who'd brought unprecedented attention to women's basketball, was doing exactly what she does, threading impossible passes, hitting shots that defied logic. The Fever faithful were loving every second of it. Then, in one explosive moment, everything changed. The play itself seemed routine at first. Carter scored a basket. The whistle blew. The play was over. Clark moved toward a loose ball during the transition. What happened next wasn't basketball. It was something else entirely. Carter deliberately stepped into Clark's path and delivered a vicious hip check that sent the league's brightest star sprawling across the hardwood. The contact was so sudden, so unnecessary, that Clark had zero chance to protect herself. The crowd went silent. Thousands of fans watching their rookie sensation hit the ground hard, far away from any basketball play. The officials called it a common foul, just another routine contact in a physical game. But the replays told a completely different story. Carter had targeted Clark away from the ball. She'd used her body as a weapon during what should have been a simple transition moment. The force behind that hit revealed something darker than competitive intensity. Here's where it gets interesting. The league reviewed the footage after the game and upgraded the call to a flagrant one foul. They determined the contact was unnecessary and excessive. Translation, they saw exactly what everyone else saw. A targeted attack on the player who'd brought more attention to the WNBA than anyone in its history. But the real damage to Carter's reputation, the moment that sealed her fate in this league, came after the final buzzer. When reporters approached Carter in the post-game interview session, they naturally wanted to ask about the incident that had everyone talking. Professional athletes understand this comes with the job. You make a controversial play, you answer questions about it. That's how it works at this level. Carter's response became the defining moment of her career, and not in a good way. A reporter gave her a direct opportunity to address what happened, to show some accountability, to demonstrate the professionalism expected in a world-class league. Instead, Carter shut down the question with an attitude that shocked even veteran reporters who'd seen everything. The reporter asked directly about the moment between her and Caitlin. What was on that play? What led to it? Carter's response? She wouldn't even say Clark's name. I ain't answering no Caitlin Clark questions. Then, when pressed about whether she said anything to Clark after the hit, Carter replied, I didn't say anything. That dismissive attitude, that complete refusal to engage, revealed everything about why Carter's career was about to implode. Reading between the lines here, this wasn't just someone having a bad moment in a press conference. This was someone showing a fundamental lack of respect for the game, for her fellow players, and for the standards expected in professional sports. Now contrast that with how Caitlin Clark handled the same situation, the rookie who just got cheap shotted, the player who had every right to be furious. Clark's response showed exactly why she's become the face of women's basketball, while Carter became its cautionary tale. Clark acknowledged that basketball is physical. She said, emotions run high during competitive games. She took the high road and showed respect, even for someone who'd just deliberately tried to hurt her. I wasn't expecting that, but I think it was just respond. Come down. Let your play do the talking. It is what it is. It's a physical game. Go make the free throw and then execute on offense. The basketball world watched this comparison play out in real time. On one side, a rookie demonstrating veteran-level maturity and class. On the other side, a veteran player who couldn't even acknowledge what she'd done wrong. Connecting the dots reveals why teams across the league started distancing themselves from Carter almost immediately. Because here's what many of you figured out weeks ago. This wasn't about one incident. The hip check on Clark became the breaking point, yes. But it was the final straw in a pattern that had been building throughout Carter's entire career. Teams had been watching her behavior for years. The Chicago incident just made it impossible to ignore anymore. The WNBA had been working hard to build its reputation as a professional league with world-class athletes. Carter's actions on the court and her post-game attitude threatened that entire image. The combination of the dirty play and her refusal to show basic professionalism made league officials realize something crucial. She didn't understand, or didn't care about, the standards expected at this level, and you were onto something when you noticed how quickly teams began avoiding her. Because Carter's attack on Clark represented more than just one bad decision during a heated game. It exposed a fundamental pattern, a history of conflicts with coaching staffs, team drama that followed her from Atlanta to Los Angeles to Chicago, suspensions and early exits that painted a picture of someone who couldn't get along with teammates or coaches anywhere she played. Let's talk about what really matters here. Drop a comment below with your take. Do you think Carter had this coming, or did the league overreact? Your perspective matters because this story is bigger than one player. It's about what the WNBA will tolerate going forward. The evidence of Carter's pattern was impossible to miss if you were paying attention. In Atlanta, she'd been suspended for conduct detrimental to the team. Multiple reports surfaced about conflicts with coaching staff and tension in the locker room. When she moved to Los Angeles, similar issues followed her: early exit, drama with teammates, a reputation that preceded her everywhere she went. By the time Carter landed in Chicago, she was already on thin ice across the league. General managers talk, coaches share information. Everyone in professional basketball knew about her history. The Sky took a chance on her anyway, hoping that maybe this time would be different. Maybe she'd matured. Maybe the talent would finally outweigh the headaches. Then came that moment with Caitlin Clark. And suddenly every team executive in the WNBA had their worst fears confirmed. This wasn't going to change. Carter wasn't going to suddenly develop the professionalism and accountability that professional sports demand. The hip check proved it. The post-game attitude sealed it. But here's where the story takes an even more revealing turn. Recently, Carter sat down for an interview where she addressed the incident for the first time since essentially being blacklisted from the league. Many people expected that maybe, after months away from the WNBA, after seeing her career evaporate, she might show some growth, some recognition of what went wrong, some accountability for her actions. Instead, Carter doubled down on everything that got her banned in the first place. She painted herself as just another trash talker who got unfairly singled out for doing what players do every night. She tried to normalize her behavior by claiming that aggressive play and smack talk are just part of competitive basketball. She compared her hip check to routine fouls that happen in NBA games all the time. Carter described the incident as a nice little tap, like I'm here, not to harm you or anything. She claimed it was just competitive basketball that spiraled out of control because the media chose a narrative. She insisted she has nothing against Clark and that both of them are great players who got buckets all season. The most telling part? Carter completely ignored her post-game attitude. She acted like her refusal to even acknowledge Clark's name was no big deal. She skipped over the moment that showed her true character to millions of viewers. Professional athletes understand that media obligations come with the job, especially after controversial plays. Her dismissive attitude revealed someone who thought the rules didn't apply to her. Fans online wasted no time calling out Carter's attempt to rewrite history. The comment sections across social media platforms filled with people pointing out the holes in her story. They reminded everyone about her track record. Her pattern of behavior across multiple organizations made it impossible to buy her victim narrative. You were onto something when you noticed how Carter's interview only made things worse. Because here's what she apparently still doesn't understand. Professional sports organizations need players who can handle adversity, accept coaching, and represent their teams properly. Her recent comments demonstrated that she still lacks these basic qualities that every professional athlete needs. Carter claimed she loves the hate, that negative attention fuels her, that she feeds off what people say about her. But there's a massive difference between using criticism as motivation and being so toxic that 32 teams across the league decide you're not worth the roster spot. That's not channeling hate into performance. That's being unemployable. The contrast with Caitlin Clark couldn't be more stark. While Carter was trying to justify her actions and play the victim, Clark was leading the Indiana Fever to their best season in years. She was bringing unprecedented attention to the WNBA. She was handling pressure with grace and maturity that veterans admire. She was proving exactly why the league chose to protect its future over tolerating its problems. Carter's move to play in Mexico during the WNBA season shows how far she's fallen from professional basketball's top level. She's talented enough to score at the highest level. Nobody disputes that. She can get buckets with the lights out. She's pure offense when she's locked in. But if you're a team, do you really want her in your locker room? Do you want that attitude around your young players? Do you want the drama that follows her everywhere? General managers across the league answered that question with a resounding no. They chose team chemistry over individual talent. They chose professionalism over scoring ability. They chose building sustainable cultures over short-term offensive production. And they made the right call. The WNBA's decision to effectively blacklist Carter sends a message that resonates throughout the league. It tells players that talent alone isn't enough, that you need to conduct yourself professionally on and off the court, that accountability matters, that you can't attack the face of the league and then refuse to acknowledge what you did wrong. Many of you have been connecting these dots for weeks, and the picture is clear. This isn't about the WNBA overreacting to one incident. This is about a league that finally drew a line about what behavior it will tolerate. Carter had chances. Multiple teams gave her opportunities to prove she could be professional. She burned every single bridge. Her recent interview proved that her exile wasn't just about one bad play. It was about a fundamental inability to accept responsibility, to show growth, to demonstrate the maturity required to compete at this level. If you still can't acknowledge what you did wrong after being effectively banned from the league, you're proving everyone right about why you don't belong there anymore. The WNBA chose progress over drama. They chose Caitlin Clark and the excitement she brings over Chennedy Carter and the headaches she creates. They chose building a sustainable future over tolerating toxic behavior. And every indication suggests this decision is permanent. If you want to see how the Caitlin Clark effect is reshaping the entire WNBA landscape beyond just player accountability, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. We're diving deep into stories the mainstream coverage won't touch. Click that notification bell because the next video reveals how Clark's impact is forcing the league to confront uncomfortable truths about how it's been run for years. Carter's career destruction is a cautionary tale about what happens when talent isn't backed by professionalism, when you can't control your emotions, when you refuse to take accountability. The WNBA outgrew players who prioritize personal attitudes over team success, and Carter became the example that proves the rule. We'll see you in the next one.